Byron Katie's a very dear friend, and she always says, loving what is, it's not necessary, but it makes life kinder when we do. So there's tools, there's understandings, there's practices, there's questions, there's all of it. And then there's reality. Someone's taking advantage. Somebody's twisting a circumstance. I can be mad about it. Went through that wave. I can be frustrated by it. I can feel the fuel of that. And there's an opportunity also, I'm only sharing my inner experience, that, if I think of every opportunity on the surface I'm saying, that appeared from my own reality to be unfair or unjust, that was more painful. The meaning that something was unfair or unjust. Because what I've come to recognize is, okay, it's happening. This person's trying to take advantage. This person's twisting reality. This person's stealing. I can focus like, hey, it's like Tony always says, there's no weeds, there's no weeds, there's no weeds. And it doesn't change that there's weeds. They're still manipulating, still taking advantage, or whatever you want to call it. And then there's our growth. And it's my experience through, when I met Tony 25 years ago, I'd never gone through a lawsuit in my life. I'd never dealt with anything legal, ever. And it really, going through life circumstances or the media, never done such a thing. And I'll tell you from my own experience, it's caused me to be more compassionate with myself and with others. It's caused me to find a level of acceptance and of allowance. I always say human beings do what human beings do. Sometimes they're really good. Sometimes they're really kind. Sometimes they lie. Sometimes they steal. Sometimes we cheat. That sounds absurd, but that really helped me to recognize that in this human experience at different stages of the game, of where we're at on this path, through scarcity, through a position of victimhood, that's a position where we can all be vicious. We can all be selfish. And we can all try to take rather than give. And from that understanding, it's helped me to connect to a deeper depth of compassion. Because I've been in scarcity in my life. Have you ever been in scarcity in your life? Have you ever done some shitty things from that perspective? So guess what? Me too. And so that helps me to understand. That doesn't mean I like the behavior. Doesn't mean I'm like, oh, hey, come, hey, the cookie jar, I'm going to leave the lid off the cookie jar. Whether I put the lid on or not, some people are going to come in and put their hand in and take the cookies. And I recognize that that's part of this human experience at times. But it's not everybody, because as we grow and we mature on the path, it causes us to choose differently. And I can only share that I have come to find compassion. And I've also come to understand that through compassion and through the lens of love, I'm also fierce. And so are you. And that is a quality and an attribute of love. To be fierce. To put a line in the sand and say, enough of this. This is unacceptable. This is unacceptable. And with that, from that clarity, you act. And you act in a way that serves the situation. You act in a way that protects your interests, and as well, hopefully, blesses the other side in some way, shape, or form, because they are having their own human experience. You can look at it and be like, they stole this and they're getting away with it. Maybe, but they also have to live with themselves. Can you imagine being inside of them? Holy frick, I stole this. And what if somebody's gonna find out? That's a heavy. We've all been there. We've all taken something at a certain stage that we shouldn't have and believed it was ours. I remember being young, very young. I don't even know how old I was. I was in my teens. And I went into a drugstore and I took a makeup. And I don't even know why I did it. I was with some girls and they were doing it and everybody was egging each other on. And I did it and I walked out. And I remember feeling, I felt guilt. I felt shame. I felt disappointed in myself. And that weighed on me. That affected me, hands down, more than anybody that's ever stolen from me. So life has a way of taking care of it. You don't have to accept what is. Byron Katie's a very dear friend, and she always says, you know, loving what is, it's not necessary, but it makes life kinder when we do. And so part of the schism or the disconnect is, how dare they? This is unfair. This is unjust. When I've made those meanings the focus, that's a brutal place to be. So another is, all right, frickin' A, they're stealing from me. Now what? From my own experience in these circumstances, I've become much more, not only discerning, but strategic, much more aware. I've matured. I've grown. And so you don't have to be at the effect of this. You are a co-creator. You're not the victim of, even though it feels like that in moments. Because if we believe that, then we're stuck in this helpless place and we, you know, can get stuck in fear. And I can only say that because I've been her. When your mind isn't behaving itself, and you're in the midst of life and someone's stealing or taking advantage or whatever the content or the context is, I invite you to be with yourself and to tune in and to allow what is, and know that everything that you're experiencing, having these tools doesn't mean that we're absent of suffering. Experiencing peace doesn't mean that you don't experience frustration or anger. Touching upon joy and love doesn't mean that you don't experience frustration. There's nothing wrong with you. That's part of this community. That's part of this human experience, is the invitation to reflect, to self-reflect, and to connect to the illusions, the delusions, the distortions that disconnect us from our nature, from God goodness, from the grace that weaves this web called our lives.